Hey up everybody, Betty's back again. Right, today a nice yum recipe, a nice comforting dish again, and it's a steak and stout pie. So I'll show you the ingredients and we'll get cracking with it. Okay, so this has got a short crust pastry bottom and a puff pastry top. So I've got a packet of each there, both 350 grams. You're going to need some plain flour for dusting if you need it. One free range egg beaten for the glaze. Right, and for the pie itself, you're going to need 3 to 4 tablespoons of veg oil. Maybe it's just a little bit more for drizzling if needed. You're going to need a pack of either steak or, as I've got here, some diced beef shin, cut into chunks. You're going to need 2 large brown onions that are going to be finely chopped, 2 celery sticks, finely chopped again, 6 large garlic cloves, which will be finely chopped, 3 tablespoons of plain flour, a sprig of thyme, 2 bay leaves, 300 mils of chicken stock, which was just 1 stock cube and some boiling water, 300 mils. You're going to need 500 mils of stout. As you can see, I'm using this brand. So that's 500 mils, it's 440 mils in a can, so a can and a bit, and I'll sup the rest later when I finish. You're going to need about 150 grams. I've got 200 of baby button mushrooms, which we put into whole. You're going to need 2 large carrots, cut into chunks, and last but not least, some salt and pepper. So that's the ingredients, so we'll get on with it. Right, okay, so I'm going to be using the pressure cooker for this. You can use the stove top, use it in a deep dish if you want to, but this is going to be quicker for me because I'm doing this in between shifts. So I've got me about a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons of veg oil in there, just letting this heat up. And the first thing we're going to do is to sear off our meat. One second. So we're just looking to brown this off basically. I've got it on a high heat. There we go, that is in. So you're going to sear that off for 4 or 5 minutes or so until it's nicely browned off. Right, so that's had a few minutes now, and as you can see, that's browning off nicely. So I'm just gonna stop that for a second, and I'm going to remove this meat and set it aside with all the juices. Right, so that is those set aside. Now into a bowl, and I've put that on a lower heat. Put a little bit more oil in here. And we're going to saute off now our celery, garlic and onion into the pan. And we're just going to soften those up basically. So that's going to take a good 6 or 7 minutes, I reckon. At least. You've seen this happen before. And like I said, if you're doing this, it's the same principle, just on the stove top. You're just using a pan instead of a pressure cooker. So that is everything nicely done into there. So I'll come back in a few minutes when these are done. Right, so that has had its 8 minutes. So I'm now going to add some flour into here. And we're going to need 3 tablespoons of flour. There's 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. I'm just going to give that a very quick whiz. There we go. And now I'm going to go in back with the meat and all the juices into there. Let's give that a quick stir. It's now off the heat at the minute, so hopefully it's not going to stick or anything. There we go. that is that. So next to go in, I'm just going to put the thyme and the bay leaves. I'm just going to leave the thyme as it is in there, because you'll remove them anyway, and the bay leaves going into there. Our stock is now going to go in, and like I say, you would, if you're using a stove top, you would be doing all this on the top and then it'd be going into the oven. I'll tell you the temperatures in a minute. So I'm just going to turn this back on 1 second. I'm just going to put it back on to saute, and when I can find the button, there we go. That's just on a lowish heat. So we're going to go in with our stout now. So 500 mils. So that's one tin is 440. Lovely jubbly. So you're not going to want much of the second tin. Like I say, I'll put this in the fridge and I'll drink it tonight when I finish work. I'd say that's about right. There. So next to go in is our carrots and our mushrooms, which I'm going to leave whole. Carrots have been sliced, yeah, big. Make sure they're all nice and even, so they're cooked nicely. So all I'm going to do here is just bring this back up to the boil and give it a chance for it all to come together. So I'll be back in a second. Forgot to add the seasoning in, so some salt and pepper. You're not going to need loads of salt because of the stock cube, so I'm not going to go mad with that. There's my salt, but I am going to add quite a bit of pepper, but you add the pepper to taste as normal. There we go. We do like it peppery. So I'm just going to stir that up now. Make sure it's all in there. See, I nearly forgot something. I've been pretty good lately. I've not been forgetting much. Makes a change for me. So, like I said, if you were doing this with it on the stove top, you'd bring that up to the boil now, and you'd cook it at, let me just find the temperature, I think it was 160. 1 second in the oven. Yeah, you'd have your oven set at 160, which is 140 fan, gas mark 3, and you'd stick it in the oven for 2 to 2.5 hours until the beef's nice and tender. Then you remove it from the oven and let it cool down. I'm going to actually pressure cook this because it's a lot quicker for me to do that. I'm just going to cook this on high for 40 minutes on the pressure cook, and it'll give you the same result. So I'm going to stick the lid on, stick it on pressure cook 40 minutes. Right, so like I said, I'm just going to set this to pressure cook. Hold on, cancel. Pressure cook, where are we? Pressure on high, and it's going to be for 40 minutes. There we go. Press play, and we're away. So 40 minutes, nanosecond for you guys. Right, so that's had its 30 minutes. So I'm just going to release the pressure now. There we go. So obviously, if you'd done this in the oven, you'd have had your 2.5 hours. So once this is off, I'm going to check to see how thick the gravy is. If it needs reducing down a little bit, I'll reduce it down a little bit. But I'll come back when I can get the lid off. Right, so that is a little bit too watery for the pie. So I'm going to I've just stuck this back on saute. And I'm just going to reduce this down a little bit just to thicken the sauce up. Obviously, if you was doing it stovetop, you'd do it on the stovetop and just reduce that liquid down a little bit. So I'll come back in a few minutes when it's done. Right, so that's had a few minutes sauteing. I have added some beef gravy granules into there just to help me along, and as you can see, that has thickened that up rather nicely. It's gone a lot thicker now, which is what we want. So the next thing to do is just let this cool down however you want to do it. Take out the bay leaves and the sprigs of thyme that are there. The twigs of the thyme's come off. and it's just the twigs that are left, so make sure you remove them before putting in the pie. But basically we're just going to cool this down now, and then we'll crack on with the pastry. Right, okay, so my filling has now cooled down nicely. That's took quite a while to cool down, but it needs to be cool before you put it over your pastry. Right, so I've got my oven preheated at 220C. That's 200C fan, gas mark 7, and we're going to cook it for 30 to 35 minutes. So, first thing I'm going to do is just obviously line our dish. So there's the dish that I'm going to be using. That is a 23 centimetre, 9 inches, like pie dish. So, I'm just going to unravel this. There we go. There we go. And this is obviously our base for the pie. So we'll get that into shot. I'm just going to move this out of the way for a second, just so I've got a bit more room to work in. So there we go, make sure that's in shot. Yep, that's in shot. So this should fit over here. It doesn't quite, so I'm going to roll this out just a little slight bit with a rolling pin. Just gonna elongate it a little bit, but not too much, because you don't want it to be too thin. Obviously you want it to cover the pie dish. Right, let's give this a go. I'm going to just roll it up onto here. Got a slight little hole on there, I've just noticed. Whoops. Right. So let's give this our best shot. So I'm just going to work this. It's okay if it's, you just don't want to, you don't want it to be too thin. I've got quite a bit of overhang there. But that's okay. I can work this in. That's not a problem. I've got quite a bit of cut off here. So I'm just going to keep that there. Another piece of overhang there. Yes, it looks messy, but as long as there's no holes in it, I'm just going to work that round. Give it a lid to go, lip to go onto. Could do with a little bit more just there. So it's just going to repair that round there like so. And make sure it's pressed nicely into there. A bit on the bottom. I'm going to work that into there, because there was a slight little indentation. Right, so that is that. Done. So, our mixture. Just going to make sure that's... Where's my spoon gone? There it is. So, I'm going to spoon this mixture out with a slotted spoon into the pie dish, because I think there's a little bit too much gravy in here, but that can be set aside and used just to go over the pie itself. I don't know what I'm serving with this yet, but obviously I will let you know and you'll see at the end. So I'm just going to keep filling this up and I'll come back to you. Okay, so that is our pie filling in. There is quite a bit of gravy left, which I'll just warm up to go extra on top of the pie, or with the pie once it's done, so whatever I'm serving it with. I'm just going to go around the edge with some egg wash, as you do. There we go. And I've just rolled out the puff pastry a little bit, just to make sure it's big enough. So off with that, and on with the lid. There we have it. Lid is on. Just stretch it a little bit over the edge there, but apart from that, that is lovely jubbly. Right, back of a knife. Let's get this trimmed up. Again, with the excess, I may cut some shapes. Right, there's some excess there, so I can probably make a few little leaves or something out of that. So I'm just going to crimp the edge just a little bit, make sure it sticks down. Yep, it's coming along, and it's coming along nicely. That'll just seal the edge in, like so. Little, just push that down a little bit. So, I'm going to brush it with a little egg wash. Just so it'll be nice and golden. And I'm just going to cut a few little shapes out of here and put those on and cut a nice little vent hole in the top, and then that is ready for the oven. Back in a second. Right, so that is now ready for the oven. I've put the vent hole in the middle, put my little decorations on. There was still a little bit left, but hey. So that goes now into the oven, 220, 200 fan, gas max 7 for 30 to 35 minutes. Right, so that is now had its 30 minutes. I've left it for 30 and that is perfect. So I've decided there's a bit of extra gravy left there. So we're going to have that with it, with some peas, and we're going to do some new potatoes to go with it. Just as a little extra, maybe some veg if I've got any knocking about. But at the minute I've got to go back to work, so I'll be warming this back up for later on. So I'll see you shortly. Right, so everything's back warmed up. I'm going to be serving this with some of the gravy that was left, some new potatoes, and some mushy peas and some broccoli that we had in the fridge. So I'm just going to attempt to cut some of this up, and hopefully it comes out in one piece. Hopefully it does. So I'm just going to cut that into a portion like so. Oh, that looks good. And it smells good. I'm just going to see if I can get it with this. Man said last time she used this dish, she got it out in one. So I'm just going to have a go at it. It's not quite ready, that piece. I'm just going to go with this piece here. Let's see if we can have a bit more joy with this. Yep, that's looking good. There we go. Right, so there's the contents of the pie in there. So I'm just going to put the rest of the stuff onto the plate, take a quick shot, and then it'll be taste testing time. So there you have it. That is my steak and stout pie, served with new potatoes, broccoli, mushy peas, and the gravy that was left over from the pie. So it's triple T time. Right, let's dig in. Star of the show, the pie. Let's have a go at this pie. With a short crust pastry on the bottom and the puff on the top. Lovely unctuous gravy, nicely cooked. Wow. Oh wow. Lovely rich gravy, a lovely rich filling. Let's just try this beef. Lovely and tender. You can taste the stout a little bit, but that's a nice thing. Makes it a lovely rich gravy. The pastry's good, both sides. Potatoes well cooked. Mushy peas. Perfect accompaniment for that. Nice and peppery mushy peas. And the broccoli. Nicely steamed. Nice and soft with a little bit of bite. I do like broccoli like that. That is banging. Proper comfort food, that one. So if you like the look of that, please give it the thumbs up. And if you feel like it, give it a hype as well. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you everybody for all your lovely comments as usual. All your lovely recipe ideas. And like I say, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. It really helps us. I'm creeping up to like 2,900, somewhere around that mark now. It would be nice to get up to 3,000 in the near future. It'd be nice, but you know, it's no biggie if not. Just if there's any new viewers out there that like my content, please give it a like and subscribe. So anyway, I'm going to sit down, enjoy the rest of that now because I've just finished my shift. I'm going to sit down and relax, eat my tea and watch a bit of telly. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Take care everybody. See you soon. Bye.